So I'll call us to order. It's 7:30 something, 32. Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. And as you saw on the agenda, we have special guests today. We have Dennis Fazio, who, in case anyone missed this, was the tree warden of the year for the state of Massachusetts in 2021. Is that right?
Yep.
And is in charge of cemeteries, trees, and cemeteries, forests, and parks.
Correct.
Is that-
Forestry Park and Cemetery, yep.
For the town of Wakefield. So, you know, we've talked a lot here and there about parks and trees and all sorts of stuff. So he is here for us to chat with him and learn more about what he does and how we can collaborate, how we can all, you know, hug more trees in town. So Dennis, I don't know if you wanted to sort of maybe share a little bit about sort of what you do and what initiatives you have going on right now.
Sure. So, in a nutshell, I don't know how familiar everyone is with the park system that we have, and all the trees that are with it. So, again, my title is Forestry Park and Cemetery Supervisor, Tree Warden. So that's all the public shade trees. We have town forest. Work obviously with the environmental, committee, conservation committee. So I'm kind of their eyes and ears, obviously, for stuff that's out there. We have all the parks. In 99, 2000, we had the charter change where we took over all the school properties as well.
Oh, okay.
So before I was in charge of like the Commons, Mapleway, Moulton, Sullivan, those parks, basic stuff, grass strips, plots, and then taking over the schools was a huge thing because they're very active. They're not like passive parks like, Colonel Connolly at the top of the lake. There's always something going on at the schools. We're in charge of all the athletic events, field painting. We set up all the Friday night football games. It's clean up, set up, clean up again, Papuana on Sundays, baseball fields. I should know all the numbers, but I think we have 11 or 12 baseball fields. We've got like 14 playgrounds that we oversee, so they're constantly needing maintenance and everything. So the job is really like a traffic controller. So every day we have our daily program, we have our weekly, and we have our seasonal programs that we need to meet. On any given day, obviously, we could have a curveball where we should be mowing, but a tree comes down, so we're obviously helping out the tree department with that. So with the forestry program, obviously it's a pretty big gig for us, a lot of responsibility, but we have a good relationship with the light department. So they have been proactively maintaining their infrastructure and power lines. So what was really happening the last few years, our town forest was really every forest has its shelf life. So all the trees, all the maples and sugar maples that were planted in the 70s had it. We had thinned them, deadwooded. We come back, we'll deadwood them again, and then they're just basically not safe. They're rotted and this and that. So then we were working with conjunction with the light department. So they were helping us remove those that were in danger of their power lines. And then what happens is we team up with them. I don't know if you're familiar the last few seasons. So we'll go out in the fall and we're getting a lot of planting done. Our numbers are up, light departments is up. So overall, we might be planting anywhere to 50 to 70. The light department's planting same. So they're actually even planting in someone's private yard. We'll plant front lawn if it benefits the town. So what we do is the light department plants smaller species on the wire side. And we're planting the taller ones that can grow without encumbrance on the non-side. So we've been going into neighborhoods that are getting pretty barren and only had a few trees left. If they have some that are really terrible, it's really at a point now where we just want to rip the Band-Aid. These are just one-sided trees. They have no value. They're actually a real threat to pedestrians and houses and whatnot. And then once obviously we're on the hook for that, it's not like the old days. We know about it. They know about it. I live there. I wouldn't want, our kids playing under them. So take it down and start the legacy all over. So, we sometimes get a little pushback. Some people are thinking because the last tree was a nuisance with leaves and cleanup and whatnot, sidewalk cracking. It's just part of urban forestry, but what seems to do is when we come into that neighborhood and everyone goes back to 2 trees per house lot, that's pretty much our standard. That's in the planning board pretty much years ago. That was kind of a standard too. So, then I think what happens is the neighborhood's pleasantly surprised. You know, a season later, they're starting to take a little shape, even though they're small, but it really makes the neighborhood all new again. Their property value is worth more and, everyone kind of jumps on the wagon. So, it's been a good program, you know.
Sorry.
And in terms of, you know, we just did we had a grant that we had partial money on, through the state, through the DCR, and we did a, tree inventory. So they came in and,
How's that?
so it's pretty cool. It's a lot of work. But it's a good, it's a good tool that obviously I'm at a disadvantage. I'm at an advantage, I guess, because I've been doing it for 30 years. So when someone calls and says, hey, we got a limb, it's that maple tree on New Salem Street. We know, it's the red house with the barking dog there, and we know the tree. But for someone that were to, if I were to leave them on and take over, now you can click on a computer. It has the street, has the tree, the species, the condition of it. You know, now it's all, you know, has subtle changes to it because now we had some, you know, debutantes out there looking at the tree and in their opinion, so we have to at the beginning kind of rate them as how I would rate them, because you would rate them maybe differently than you would or vice versa. So we want to know that, you know, this is it. So when we say it's in poor condition, you know, I might go there and it actually might be worse than poor. But at least that in a snapshot lets us know that this is what we have, these are the numbers we have. And then because over the years, everything does this and every town does it. So, it's big business. Everyone was going through the same thing with all the forests from the tree woods that planted in the 70s were, you know, starting all over again. So some put huge money into it. We were putting a lot of money into our forestry and trees. You know, and then it gets to the point where we have $300,000 given to us. You still can only plant so many trees because we have a lot more utilities now. So a lot of the houses now have gas. So that changes open spots where we had. So you have a water line, a sewer line, gas line. We have to be savvy to that when we're planting. So we might not be able to put 2 right in or a big one. So it's really changed. But it's working and it's a good tool to have. It took a while to do. But it's there too as a budgetary means too, to say, well, this is, you know, it also can map it too, so you can kind of see what side of town. So obviously historically, like the west side was a more maybe green than the east side of downtown area, naturally, because it's more urban. So we've been working on that. Typically when I'm doing my planting, I try to spread the wealth a little bit. So I won't do 100 trees on the west side. I won't do on the east side. So it's, you know, maybe 25 on the west side, east side, unless we have a barren neighborhood. So we've done Drury, Forest. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those neighborhoods. Brewster. So like those got see it. Summer Ave, Summer Street over here off of Main Street. We did a few of those where the whole street was wiped out and we went down it.
Yeah.
It's totally forested again. So so it's a constant thing, but the advantages to it too were, you know, the other night we had that bad storm hit and we had just a couple hits. We had a couple trees come down. And you know, a lot of times that's private. So we don't have the damage that we were having. So we'll get to ride the wave of all these new trees for a while. And then the ones that are left that were marginal, they'll start to fail. And, you know, I think a lot of towns now are basically jumping on that wagon. Like the tree's been a good tree for 35 years. It's now a threat. And the sooner we take it down and plant a new one, we can start a new legacy. And it doesn't take long. I mean, I have a really good crew and we've been going around and we see trees now that are, you know, in front of the library is a good example. One of those trees, the first one right by the post office, that was a little Charlie Brown tree from Colonel Connolly when we took that over. When Lonnie Allen was getting wiped out, the trees for Wakefield at the time saw it and thought maybe we could give it a little home and we gave it a chance. And that's you know, it's a 12-inch caliber, 35-foot oak tree. So it's kind of nice to see. It really doesn't take that long. And I think now at this point, it's, you're at an advantage to just get rid of the stuff that's dying and because you're wasting resources and it's the target zone is basically the hot topic. You know, we have trees around the lake. I mean, yes, we clear them out, but when we plant, we trim around the lake a lot to keep out the invasive species, but we're trying to let the birch trees and the other ones, you know, sustain. So, um, you know, at what point are there not thousands of people walking around the lake every night? You know what I mean? So like if this were in the back of a wooded parcel, it'd be a different rating system than something that's right on downtown. So that's how we rate it. So, but I mean, I could keep going on. I just don't know what, yeah, I don't know if anybody has questions or, you know, but
On the inventory, like when a tree comes down, you take it out of the inventory and replace, like
Yeah.
if a new tree goes in, that inventory is staying basically fresh.
yeah.
As,
So basically we use our removal list as the planting list for next year.
Mm.
So over the winter months, I will go there and we'll just tally up, you know, and then I can actually see what neighborhoods are really starting to get, you know, it might be 2 trees came down, but they may be the last 2 on that street or on that whole right side. So there might be only 2 left on the other side and it's all root bound. The sidewalk has been done over for its 4th time. You know, we'll open the sidewalk up, shave some roots without compromising the tree. Sometimes we have to take it out, pave it. After the 5th time, it's starting to damage someone's front walk. It's time. So we get rid of it and plant a new one, and now the whole street can be rejuvenated. So um, we went high with our numbers. So back in '98, removal list was about 42. We were planting about 60. So that was when I took over. The trees weren't that bad, the 70 trees. And sugar maples, which are our native tree, but they don't do well. The road salt's not good with them. They acid rain, carbon monoxide. So there's a lot of things that were wiping them out. And then each year, the numbers went up. So it went from a 42-year removal to 60 to 80 to 90. We were averaging about 100 and maybe 120 trees taken down. And then we had a few seasons where because of time, money, could be staff, could be storms going on, you know, we were taking down 100, but only planting 48. We had other years, the earlier years, it was taking 40, planting 60, take down 40, plant 70. Then we had some years where our removals was exceeding the planting list. And then the last few years, we've been up, same thing. We've been planting more than coming down. Overall, we've still been up. So I think right now, like this year, the ones we're taking down, might not be necessarily public shade trees. They might be just stuff that's, you know, borderline from a park or at the cemetery. We have some that, you know, came down this summer that, you know, we have to watch that. So
what, so you said the sugar maples aren't doing so well anymore. Which, trees are you planting these
So
days?
we have planted a lot of oaks, and that list also has changed. So over the years, what was available for public shade trees? I mean, Norway maples aren't available because they're on the invasive species list. Pear trees, different pear species. There's a number of trees. It seems like every 10 years, you know, the state comes out with something that's now on the invasive list. Ash trees because of emerald ash. Um, you know, they're not planting ash trees, so they wiped out. We're doing pretty good with emerald ash borer. We weren't seeing any cases, and then about 4 years ago, we lost a few neighborhoods. And, you know, we try to mix up the species as we're planting. These were neighborhoods that like the whole neighborhood was ash trees and the whole neighborhood was wiped out. Over by the stone church, we lost 4 down there. So we are planting a lot of oak trees, different varieties, and oak scares a lot of people because they're big but they take 75 years. You know, I try to put it in perspective to say I don't think I'm gonna be here in 75 years. But I mean, and same with acorns, and every tree has its negatives, you know, flowering trees, some have fruit, you know, some have nuts. So we try to mix it up and we're also kind of specific of which tree we're gonna put near a driveway. You know, being a little sensitive to someone having a car underneath it. They used to plant a lot of linden trees. Lindens are, you know, road salt tolerant, but they split apart. They get stress cracks. when they get so big, they have aphids, so they drop sticky stuff all over cars. So there's pluses and minuses. Every year it seems as though we lose another round of trees to plant. So we don't like to just blanket one standard planting list, because we might have to move a little bit. And it also comes down to sometimes when we go to purchase trees, we may want to get some red oaks, but then the red oaks that are coming in from the growers may look lousy. So, if we can plant a few more white oaks that look healthy, then we do that. So, some of the chestnuts and walnuts and, go back to roots, we like to try to get some chestnuts on Chestnut Street. They actually take a long time to grow. They get anthracnose, they can shrivel up, and so there's little games. But does anyone have any questions? Or I know I'm rattling off a lot of stuff. I could go on and on with the program, but
Melissa had her hand.
Can you hear me?
yep.
Hey Dennis, thanks for joining. I had a question. Is there a plan to plant trees along North Ave? Because I find that North Ave is pretty barren and it's a big, busy thoroughway for commuting and kids going to school, and it gets really hot in the summer because there's really not a lot of trees, especially in front of the train station. So I don't know if there's like rules that you can't plant near this train station because MBTA, or like what, just curious about North Ave.
So North Ave is actually on our radar. It's actually on the light department's radar too. That they call that it's actually they call it the I think it was the, sustainability, program that they're doing. And that one we were gonna dive into that last summer. That's obviously a larger scale project because, where the trees were tiny little beds, they outgrew them. So if we go back, it's gonna be opening up sidewalk panels, which is underground utilities. Unfortunately, when those were put in, a lot of times the dig safes aren't that specific. We ran into a neighborhood that were planted, on the east side. We lost the whole street to ash trees, as I was mentioning. When we went to plant back, there were utilities that were spaghettiing all through the grass strip and sidewalks. So when they were planted, they were literally planted in little, 14-inch voids that didn't have something that the developer at the time knew exactly where they went. So it wasn't wipe the tree out. We didn't even have the luxury of going over 4 more feet to a new, gas line or whatnot. So but that is actually something that we're gonna be working on North Ave, especially like around the end of like where Boats and Motors is and that side. On the train track side, I mean, over by the depot, there probably wouldn't be one there, obviously, because that sidewalk is not a big sidewalk. That's only a 5 foot, and there's actually signs. It's kind of a sign farm, if you notice, right across from the North Ave Diner. And that's actually a real hindrance for us because we can't even run a sidewalk plow through that. So that's why that sidewalk's not done often. When it is, it's usually when we're in a complete hauling operation doing the square. We will try to, get details, shut down that section at night. You can imagine it's a big financial thing. We gotta go in there with a few bobcats and triaxles, remove it all. Because there's literally signs per their laws that say the railroad tracks, crossing, steps. There's ours that say no parking, and there's only this much room. So if we put any kind of tree back there, the T would probably have something to say about it too, obviously, because it'd be hanging over the deck. One would be, and two, we'd have to be real aggressive about making sure that it's handicap accessible through there. And so some of the cities that are doing these beds are doing a poured rubber in place, similar to a playground. So it lets water go in, you can kind of walk over it, very expensive. So I know some towns were, trying out, doing it in-house learning. So there's a method to it, spreading it, and, you kind of want to get someone that knows what they're doing with that. But same thing, that rubber only lasts so long in an area that's getting road salt and calcium put on it, and plows. It's not really meant to plow over. So they're typically on a sidewalk that they still can avoid, but you can walk across it or wheelchair across it.
Mhm.
So,
Right, I've heard that used more in like parks, like pocket parks.
yeah,
Or something doing that.
we were gonna do some of that up at Colonel Connolly when that was getting redone. That was really trying to be a, mini educational arboretum type thing with different pavers and, the rubber sidewalks and stuff. And then when the cost started coming in, I mean, it was just astronomical. So it went from rubber sidewalks to regular sidewalks and, benches and whatnot. So, and then there was also a lot of back and forth too, like less is more. That's kind of our vista view. When we come off the highway too, we want to be able to see the lake, but have it be open space at the same time, but not over cluttered with too many trees and, and I think it's got a pretty nice balance right now. We did a few trees up there working with the Friends of Lake Quannapowitt, and we kind of sat in different viewing spots where they went, and same thing because they're little now, but then you have to think, once they're 35, 40 feet, what are they gonna look like? We want to be able to see the flagpole, but be able to see the beach, and most importantly, be able to view the lake. So, but that back to North Ave, that still is actually in the works. So that was just they are definitely on trying to put back trees on the storefront side of North Ave. And that'll be a major project. I'll be talking to Dave Polson over there at the light department too, and I'll bring it up, but that's been on their radar to try to bring back too. So just like a joint project for all of us to kind of regreen that.
Yeah, I mean, even the sidewalk like in front of the Galvin, that pretty long sidewalk on the train track side.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any
Well,
plans to
this,
put trees over there.
so the state did something when that was done over a while back around 2000. It really didn't make much sense either. The same thing. They had little miniature tree cuts and they were planting they were really like Charlie Brown trees that every one of them died. So it wasn't a realistic bed. For us to go in and make one, that sidewalk is really narrow over there. That one is, I don't even think it's a 5 foot. I think it's a 4 foot. And then the same thing, they carried that all the way up to almost in front of Mike's gym. And then when it takes the corner there's the light pole, the crosswalk pole is right in the middle of that sidewalk. So, same thing. That's always a spot that we kind of have to go out with sidewalk plows. It gets bad enough, it's a visibility issue. We go in with the loader and, it's a lot of handwork there. So, and the property behind the fence, the T does strict vegetation control there. They're not gonna plant, I ended up planting down in Greenwood by the parking stalls. So that was getting a little worn. The T actually had a bunch of just what were weeds. They were all sumac and elianthus stuff that was growing. And once a week, we were down there their trees were snapping and falling out on Main Street. And I don't know how nobody got killed. They were right in the middle of 5 o'clock rush hour. They were just dropping right in between cars. And we finally had a big meeting out there with all their suits. And we mandated, like, if this is enough, and they went and they took the rest of those down. But we ended up coming in with our crew and we planted some sycamores and some oak trees. There's a few more spots that we could put in, but if you're driving through there now, they're pretty decent trees. You're under the canopy. There's a couple maples at the end that are starting to fail, so they'll be replaced. But it ended up being a better balance because what they were leaving wasn't they weren't trees. They were just overgrown. They were 25-foot weeds basically. So we have a grass strip there. That's the only difference. On North Ave, we don't. And that's a pretty busy traffic, so we don't really have the option to make a bigger, sidewalk with a grass strip and take down the lane, because right where the entrance to the Galvin is there, with people taking the left and people, going straight back and forth, that wipes out that lane, and then you have cars parked on the other side. So it's not the perfect situation, but I don't see how we could put a tree in that sidewalk. It would be literally right in the middle of it. So, I mean, even a kid wouldn't, be able to go down there with a bike. So that's why when it was even put in, it was, with our engineering staff, even at the time, and this is going back, but like I said, this was probably around 2000. We were shaking our heads at it because it was, it didn't meet anything other than maybe someone saying, put a couple trees in to green it up, because it made no sense. But it's a tough spot there. But I will say that plan is to put on the other side, but on the T side right now, I'd say no would be I just gave you the long answer why, but the short answer would be no.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I'm looking for other hands. Please raise your hands or else. Yes, thanks, Jen. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. This is super interesting. I'm just interested in, you mentioned like the tree, the trees in towns have the number of trees have ebbed and flowed over time for a number of reasons. Can you just give us some high level stats, like how many trees we had in the 70s, how many trees we have today, and do we have a future goal that we're trying to attain in terms of foresting the town? What is that? Where are we in terms of that goal?
So, I mean, I know we had upwards of 8,000 shade trees at one point when I was using that number. Right now, we're higher than that because we've added a lot more neighborhoods.
Mhm.
So in my 30-year tenure, like I said, the standard for a long time and that we've been trying to go by is 2 trees per house lot. And then you have other trees in, other areas that, people on cul-de-sacs that have 2 trees per house lot, but then on the end, there's an additional 2 or 3. So, you gotta figure like all the dead ends off of Montrose Ave, for example, there's probably what, five, a half a dozen, streets down there. And even though they might not have a lot, that's 2 per house. And some of those that are smaller might have 6, 6 houses. So there's 12 more trees that we didn't have back in the 70s. So, I mean, in numbers, I don't have an actual number off the head. I mean, the Upper Common, in 1939 had a whole grove of elm trees that were planted very close. We still have a decent amount of trees out there, Hall Park. So as they've been coming down, we've been trying to actually come back. We lost a birch tree out there. We planted that back. So the Lower Common, we were planting trees back in the rows, and then, depending on the board of, the selectmen at the time, some felt that they didn't want to see the Lower Common be an arboretum. They like it to be open space so people can utilize it for frisbee and, just, large scale events that we have. And others seem to think that what we have is good. So when we've been losing them, we lost another elm. We've been planting around the perimeter, keeping that maintained. We have a few up to at least the bandstand, and we have others on the Main Street side. So, but back to the actual numbers, I'd have to dive more, in. I know we've been on the upswing. So obviously, trees from the 70s didn't have as many issues. But then in the 80s, we had gypsy moth caterpillar. So gypsy moth caterpillar was wiping out tons of trees. And then there wasn't that many going back in because of budget and staffing and everything started to really jump. So when I started, you could get swamp maples. That's just like an Acer rubrum. That's just like a basic red maple. They were $79 a tree. Those now are $250. $250 to $279 to $300 a tree. So obviously it's, we can spend $15,000 like nothing, and that gets you 40 trees. So a lot of towns are trying different things. They try and bear root, so they get the trees a lot cheaper, and they put them in the nursery and they kind of let them grow a little bit, and then they put those out in the street. So some communities are more vested in numbers. So it's kind of a smoke and mirror thing. So some towns can say, well, we planted 180 trees. Well, some of them are very small. And then Wakefield used to pride themselves on always doing 2 to 2.5 inch caliper. We have been going a little smaller than that now, for numbers and because they go in quicker. The problem was the balls were getting bigger. So the balled and burlap trees were getting very large, especially on like the crab apples and stuff, and they're not fitting in the grass strips. So that's the other big issue that we're running into now. So now all the Wakefield's doing over all the town streets finally, which is good, but they're doing it correctly too. They're doing, before we used to just overlay every couple of years, overlay. Now we're making sure that infrastructure's been replaced, reclaimed, totally repaved, granite curbing, new sidewalks. When that happens, now they have to do 5-foot sidewalks where they were 4 before. So a lot of the grass strips in town that were 24 inches are now 16. So now we have to solicit to homeowners and see if they want to sign a permission card to put something on their front lawn behind the sidewalk. So it's outside of the right of way. So when we did run into some neighborhoods where we just couldn't go and blanket it with trees because they're this big. Every town's different. North Reading is a lot more, you know, country-like with their, you know,
Forest.
they have areas. Reading also has a lot of sidewalks that have big 4 and 5-foot grass strips. Those are great for trees because they can grow and they don't get root bound and girdled. You know, Wakefield's 99% of the streets around Wakefield are 2-foot grass strips. So we plant, we do it, and then, you know, year 30, year 25, they start cracking the sidewalk. We have to address that, and we do it. It's just part of the urban game. So we were pretty good with disease through the 90s. And then we hit winter moth. So winter moth was the next big thing to come in, and you know, tree mortality was up. It also depends on the rain. If you know, they get defoliated and then you have another year, summer of 100-degree weather, it's that much weaker the next year. So you know, the town uses a lot more road salt than we used to. So you kind of have to play that game, you know. People like their black streets after a storm, and you know, rightfully so. So they're not just using the sand and whatnot. So we know what trees work a little better with road salt than others. We also know that even the ones that say they're road salt tolerant may not be meant for, you know, lots of salt all winter long with calcium chloride mixed in. So that's the part of the mix. So
Rebecca?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with others that this is so informative and interesting. So one of my first questions is just, I have 2 questions. One is like, I think as a non-professional, when you say shade tree, I'm not sure that I know what you mean specifically. Are you talking about a tree that's planted and covers like a public area, or, you know, compared to a residential or something in a shared public area?
yep. So I mean, obviously, our primary focus is on public shade trees. Okay, those are trees planted within our right of way. Those are with the intent of providing shade, beauty, cooling temperatures, oxygen, the whole 9 yards. So that's we follow that practice. That's under Chapter 87, Mass General Laws. That's the general public shade tree law. So that's why when trees are coming down, we post a tree hearing when it deems, if it's not an emergency. Their homeowners aren't allowed to touch them, trim them, take them down. There's fines, so we protect them. We've been following that, as many towns do. But there also are a lot of, you know, shade trees that are on our parks. So all the trees around the lake. So it might not be considered a public shade tree in a street, but it's on a park. So obviously it's still protected under those laws. Then you have all the private trees that are on their property that are obviously leaning out over the street. So you know, often during windstorms, we're cleaning up mess that's private, you know, but it's in our right of way. We have to make it safe. We have to, you know, trim it back. We do preventative maintenance on private trees when we need to. The light department's been very, very proactive with that over the years. So they've been offering trees that are threatening to fall on a whole, you know, double phase of wires that's gonna knock out maybe a third of the town. they'll knock on the door, they offer to take a, do a removal. And they'll actually, try to, in the fall, do a replacement back in that area. So we still do, front lawn planting. We get a permission card, same as the town did in the seventies, and then moving forward. The only difference is when we do a front lawn tree that's out of our right of way, maybe 4 feet in on their lawn, so it's technically their property, so we get a right of entry to sign saying it's there. We'll maintain it for one growing season, and after that, it's their responsibility. It used to be a little different system years ago where we would have a permission card. We'd plant a tree on your front lawn, then we would maintain it as a public shade tree and you weren't allowed to touch it, trim it or whatnot. It gets a little gray with legal stuff because, it's your property, you're paying the taxes, but yet it was still protected as a public shade tree. So public shade tree money allocation really is for trees that are planted along the right of way that are obviously going to be beneficial to the people on that road. So, we can't deem a tree in your backyard as a public shade tree because it has nothing to do with the street, the road, and it's totally on private property. So, if that helps.
Yeah, it does. And just to understand with the two trees per house spot, that's a shade tree that you're talking about. That's like serving the same sort of purpose that you just described.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, even when I think even in neighborhoods well before I was here, I mean, that was the standard. You'd see 2 trees per house lot as a standard. And I know the planning board and they adopted that and they haven't changed it. I used to, sit on a lot of those meetings when I took over. And when they're doing new neighborhoods, they still mandate 2 trees per house lot. They may be, if it's a whole new development, they might be they might be on the lawn. But they still are making 2 per lot, and then obviously on the cul-de-sac or in between the houses, we try to mandate that. So if there's a new neighborhood, I usually get involved with that. We'll talk about species and location, so a tree warden will come through, I'll meet with the contractor. We'll say, we want to do this and this for trees, we'll mark out. And depending on where the utilities are, that's after the dig safe, we might have to move a left or right, but. And then once we get involved with that, we might find out that we couldn't put the one to the right side of the driveway. So we'll put it next to this one and make sure that maybe the next house, they've got more frontage, maybe they get 3 instead of the 2. So that's how we do the neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm curious whether your approach has changed at all, sort of in light of changing weather patterns, extreme weather events, flooding. Like, are you doing anything different in a sort of resilience or preparedness frame of mind?
Yeah, I mean, it seems that when the weather hits, it does hit harder. We actually at the Tree Woods Conference, we had Eric Fisher, the weatherman. He came and spoke, and he had charts actually. So it's kind of surprising that temperatures seem like they're a lot warmer. It's a very gradual, incline. The amount of rain we get annually is pretty much in with what we've been getting for years, but it just seems like when it comes harder. So annually, we might only get, we might get 20 inches of rain, but it's when they come, they're in 3.5-inch increments. Like the other night, it only lasted about 20 minutes, but we had about 2.75 inches of rain come down. We do, when we watch the weather and during the winter months, we supplement with private company. So that's helped out a lot. And you kind of need to know when it's worth doubling up and having some extra things in the stall. Years ago when we were plowing, we had a tree come down, we'd pull the guys off the roots, we'd put rain jackets on and we go attack the tree. Well, we're down plows, we're down numbers, we're down people. We have more roads to plow, so like we don't have that option. So now if we know there's gonna be a bad snowstorm and it's gonna be 60-mile-an-hour winds, we'll have somebody basically on call waiting. And if it's bad enough, we'll actually stage them in town and we'll say, we want a lump truck, we want this. And, a good night is when we don't have to. But you have to know when, uh, and we do that with trees, large trees. We're fully capable of doing anything in-house, but you need to know the boundaries of that to say, you know what, we could do this with a bucket, but we're gonna be here for 4 days. And it's around 13.8 power lines and it's a threat to the staff and, it's just a lot easier to get a detail and it's safer and smarter and less damage. We're gonna get a crane and take it out that way and we can channel our attention to something else. And that's the other part of it is, every time we plant, all these new trees that, it's not a one and done. So you need to go back and you need to water them, you need to stake them up and trim them and kind of train them and shape them and this and that. So, you have to kind of focus on, you're going to become a removal specialist? Are you a trimming specialist and this and that? And some towns gear themselves up to maybe do it all. Some just say we don't do any removals. We farm out the removals and we focus on trimming and maintaining the trees we have. We really have a good balance of basically everything. So we're ready. We do plenty of removals, we do trimming, and I think it's just a balance of knowing when to say, this is, I think, really providing the best value for the town. It's not always the smallest price tag. Like I said, if I have my crew there for 5 days on one project, that's not necessarily a good value because that's 5 days of other work around town we're not doing. So if that answers.
Outside of trees, are you also in charge of other plantings, gardens and flower beds and?
So we, along the parks, I mean, I know we've been talking about like water gardens and stuff, so, which is good. We've been bringing in some help to do those. I know with, Bill Renault, that with Vets Field, we're gonna be doing over that whole parking lot and stuff, so, same thing. I think when it gets to a point where if we have a half a dozen, elaborate water gardens with all kinds of plants and stuff, at that point, it's probably easier to just get somebody on a contract to say, usually twice a year, you're gonna do it. It's on the calendar, they're booked, they'll do it. Like I said, back to being a air traffic control, we're kind of doing this and it's a storm and it's that, and we could be, weather could get in the way of something and we have an emergency stuff, but we have a lot of events. We do about 100 events a year on the Lower Common. So that's cut, trim, clean, 2 people out there doing a trash, event all day. And then athletic events. So we've been doing this. We don't have the numbers that when we took over the schools, we were supposed to get more numbers from that and we didn't. So we have the same staff maintaining basically 120 acres of land. So, and it's pretty active land. Of the 120, it's probably, 180 to 100 is active. Those are our ones that we touch all the time. I mean, the islands and plots, no. So we are in charge of that. So like we have planting beds along Albion Street, it's stuff like that we try to utilize the local landscapers. Our adopt-a-site program is excellent. The guys that have been doing a great job with it over the years, they take a lot of pride in it too. And they're the ones in town here that you see, the Rockery and the Island, and they know, and they spend quite a bit of, of money doing that. So we're very fortunate to sit back and take the credit of that. So, Wakefield and myself, so.
What do you wish people knew about what you do? Like if we could help spread a message about plantings or trees or things in town, is there, like, what could residents be either doing better to help the situation or you wish that they knew to appreciate?
I think the residents in Wakefield, everything we touch, I think is very tangible. You see it, when you look out the Lower Common, there's no trash, the trees are all trimmed up the same. At supper time, you see the grass is all striped up. That's not an accident. That's the park department going out there and giving it love. I think it's the insulting part of it is the, like dogs And I'm a dog owner. I love dogs. The dog is the greatest thing on the planet, but we have a huge problem at the ball fields. People just don't pick up the poop, and they always say it's not us, it's the other group, and we watch it. We watch it in front of us. It's very hard to police. Trash. I don't know. I know some communities are very good with, back in 2000, we really got aggressive with carry in, carry out policy. I don't think that applies to Wakefield. I live down by Pine Banks, and they really respect that property because they don't work at night, and people bring in whatever they bring in, you just don't see it. And around the lake, it's just a drop off. So we talk about cameras, we talk about punishment, we try less barrels. Less barrel just means people just throw their trash by the barrel and there's a bigger pile. So then we talk, what about changing the barrel so that you can't put bigger stuff in it? Then people just stack it near it. So that's why we use the green barrels because, they're disposable. So that part of it is, I send 3 guys out on Monday and Friday for trash with our small trash truck to do all our parks and schools and playgrounds. And during the summer months, we've been going out on Wednesdays as well. So it's a lot, that's 3 days of an 8-man crew that's being tied up on just picking up trash. So, and a lot of them, we go through the square and certain parks, and before they're done with the route, the barrel's overflowing. So it's just, I don't know. I guess cameras would help because then you could probably go after that person, but if it's not him, it's gonna be somebody else. So that's the hardest thing. I think before we focus on, appreciating the flowers and the trees that are out there, I think the people that are good and respect the community do like that. I tell my staff all the time that, we're in the memory business. When we're hiring, we're doing interviews, I say is, we are gonna do a lot of grass cutting. We're gonna be picking up trash, cutting grass, we're gonna be doing tree work. It's all the same menial things that we do. But when you leave the property and you go by Vets Field and they're playing softball, it's a pretty nice backdrop with the lake. And you can see it. So, in March when the crew is going around, before the fields are opened up and the snow is starting to melt, that's when we'll go around the lake and we trim out all the, invasive stuff and the bad trees and the brush. And then the reward is that come middle of summer, you can still see the lake and everyone can appreciate it. So they buy in to the program. I think a lot of people do. And the people that walk the lake all the time, I think they see it because when you really walk it, you can actually see how much work is going in. But again, the trash thing is just, I don't know. It's hard. We try to educate and, I don't know.
Well, and when people put it on top or next to you, then it blows around. and
It does.
It's
So,
all over the streets too.
so the term we use is it needs policing. So we'll say, can you go, we'll call someone, say, can you go to Vetsfield, police this, go to the junior high and police. There's athletic groups out there every day now, and it's in disadvantages. The junior high is across from McDonald's.
Yeah.
But on any night, the basketball court, that's clean before we go home. And, the next night, it's great to see kids playing. But when they're done, some nights there's 60 bottles on the ground and the barrel's only 10 feet apart.
Yep.
So it just comes down to pride, and I don't know. I think the coaches really try. At the end of the games, I meet with the athletic groups. I meet with Little League every year. We have a big meeting with all the coaches. We bring them in, and the coaches say, "Good practice, this and that." Pick up the water balls, even if they're not yours. But it doesn't always happen. So every time we show up to a field and gotta pick up a half a dozen or a dozen Gatorade bottles or beer cans, that's 10 minutes that we're not dragging the field. We're not picking up something. We're not doing something extra. So, and the extra is really what makes the property pop. You can always just cut it and trim it, but we want to get the fence line done. We want to pick up some gravel, or there might be some broken glass. That's unexplained stuff that you got to do. So, but it's just part of it, I guess, but it gives you an eye opener when you're there picking up stuff and you realize how fast it comes in.
Mhm.
Now, the lake is beautiful. It's a perfect 3-mile loop. There's thousands of people walking. around the lake all the time, so, we're right near 128, so it's pretty easy for people to just come off the highway, drop some trash and move on their way. So, it's even hard to blame who it is.
Yeah.
So. But. Two more lights.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
With the new high school going in, and I've seen some really nice renderings of sort of what's gonna happen when they bring the field up front. And I've seen some images of some nice plantings around there. Do you have a lot of input as to sort of what that would look like, or what you would like to see there? What would be easy to maintain? What would look good for the space? Are you sort of brought into that discussion?
Yeah, at the beginning phases, towards the end, once it gets in motion, it's kind of stamped.
Okay,
So, I mean, it's always difficult with a new property.
sure.
You can have a whole fleet of new architects and they have kind of maybe a grandiose idea of what would be nice, but we also have to think of what is it gonna look like. I don't have a full-time crew there.
Yeah.
So, whenever it comes into putting a mulch bed there at the school, well, Children Protection Act, we can't go in and spray weeds. So mulch sometimes isn't the best thing if we're not gonna be there. So bushes that don't need to be trimmed versus a tree. We'd rather a tree, even though it has leaves, than shrubs.
Sure.
Flowers annually, we always mention the wildflower mix. That's lovely when it's working and in bloom. But then when it doesn't, it needs to be cropped down, seasonally raked, and then that can be in a youth setting, can be filled with trash and whatnot. So again, I end up being the negative guy a lot of times because, you want to see this. I want to see access points that we can get at this spot. So it's
Right.
going to be a very busy property because of the way it is in Outback and the little amphitheater and this and that. So,
Yeah.
you want to be able to access it and, fence lines, trying to pave under fence lines so that we don't have to weed whack 600 feet of fence versus 100. Guardrails work. Can we get under them to cut? Is there gonna be hot top under them? So there's little things like that can make the difference on man hours. So some of them go into place and other times we discuss it, but then something happens along the way and then it's also criteria like X amount of trees have to go in and because of green space and whatnot. So we get that. So it's basically at that point, once it gets rolling,
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah, then we'll deal, we kind of have to come up. I mean, even the Galvin is, Galvin's pretty straightforward, but the Galvin takes quite a bit of time around the fields because of the way the elevate, like hills and like Landrigan is a good example.
Yeah.
The stadium, it's pretty steep with hills, so that's not a quick, just hit it with the mower. That's handwork. So that's guys on the hill with weed whackers and whatnot. So, at first glance, it seems like it works, but you have to know that, all right, that's a hill, which means we can't do it at the day after rain. Because it's wet and we'll slide down and we slide into the signpost or the fence. So, okay, so that's an afternoon job. So we'll go do this. We'll do this part of the property that we can do when it's wet or damp or not. So, how close it is to this. There's a lot goes into it. Yeah. Kids have allergies now, so we can't run the machine next to the certain classrooms and noise. We have MCAS now, so we get that schedule. So a lot of the schools, it's 3 o'clock hit for us. But now the after-school programs have tripled at every school. There's probably 25 kids at every school in elementary. We used to go in at 3 o'clock and it would be just a couple kids on the playground. Now there's
Packed.
that's packed.
Yeah.
So now 3 o'clock doesn't work. So now it's 6:30, 6:45 kind of hit for us. Go right out before they get there, do the front, come back the next morning, do the back kind of thing. So yeah, just got to be able to punt, I guess, and change. So different stuff, different times.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
Good job.
yeah.
Well, we should let you go. Thank you so much for spending so much time with us and telling us about.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take up all your time. It's a lot. It's anytime you guys have questions, let me know. Like I said, the department, we handle a lot of stuff, and it's a lot too. Cause I think it's easy to drive by and we get used to it, which is a good thing, cause the town looks good. And when you drive by and see everything all well kept and, just there's usually there's a handful of guys that made it that way. There was guys that were picking up trash, one was cutting, one was weed whacking, one was on a mower, and 3 guys are trimming. So the good result is everyone comes in a Wakefield and gets to walk around the lake, and it looks great.
Well,
So,
we appreciate you and we appreciate your crew, so please.
no problem. Yep, and I will keep you updated on the North Ave project, because that was we were supposed to dive into that last fall, and we were out planting, and we know it's gonna be a big to do, but once it starts happening, we open up those sidewalks. We'll be making beds, and we'll at least get that one side rejuvenated with some trees.
Wonderful. Well,
Okay.
keep us in the loop if we can ever be, supportive, or you wanna, try to rally some volunteers to help plant some trees someday. We'd
Yep.
love to do
Appreciate it.
stuff.
Yep, and we are gonna have more of those water gardens and stuff, so with Vetsfield, I don't know if you've had met with or talked to Bill Renault, the town engineer, so
Not yet.
so Vetsfield is gonna be it's gonna be pretty handsome, it's gonna look nice. So
Florida Way came out awesome.
so, yeah, it's everything's, it has a lot of history down there, so you wanna balance between what works. It's, rural and nice, but it's being modernized, and Vetsfield parking lot is gonna get done over. It's gonna be nice. So,
Be great.
okay,
Wonderful.
great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, bye-bye.
To get.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you all for some great questions. And if, as you have more, we can talk more about it or share other things, with Dennis too. In the future. Back to the rest of our agenda. Next, let's tackle, the minutes from last time.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, and I'll do in alphabetical order. We don't have Ann, do we? No. Christina? Christina, you're muted.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Jen?
I will abstain as I was not present.
Thank you. We don't have John. Lily?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Stefan?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Minutes approved. Thank you. Oh, I should have copied that before and marked all over it. Updates on our currently running programs. So first, food rescue and compost at the schools. I can give a quick update since Melissa's just returning from abroad. So we've kicked off food rescue and composting at the Greenwood last week and at Walton and Woodville this week. Lily was at the Walton, I've been at the Woodville, Cheyenne's been at all of them. I think we have not yet kicked off Dolbear.
We're waiting to get the go ahead from the principal.
Okay, right, good. I mean, I don't think we had the people to be doing Dolbear this week anyhow. So yeah, so we're up and running at, I guess now 3 of the 4 elementaries. Cheyenne is doing her good work behind the scenes, trying to make sure that pickups will happen for the rescued food. And that it's all going according to plan. Seems like she's talking with the Boys and Girls Club to see if they're gonna continue to help with pickup of the food. But so far we've got some kids knowing what to do and where to put stuff, so that's a good start. Lily, anything to add on Walton?
Nope, nothing really. Kindergartners seemed like they were getting it. They might need one more reminder at some point, but I think it was good for their first time.
Were you there on Monday only?
Yeah, Monday.
I was gonna go there tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be great. They could probably use just one more. The buckets weren't out when I got there, but the people were like, "Oh, we're starting the composting," and I said, "Yep, So hopefully they'll be going out more regularly now.
Sounds good.
Mhm.
Awesome. Events, so recapping past month's event, the EV showcase was fun. We had a small hiccup in that the lot that we had reserved was not reserved. So we did a quick scramble across the street to the gas and light lot, which was available, and they were kind enough to let us use it. They were also participating. So they didn't seem to mind. That was probably not, I mean, it was certainly a good backup lot. It was not as good as being in the intended lot because there was nowhere for folks who wanted to come see, like the EVs that were being shown took up all of that lot. So folks who wanted to come see them had to park elsewhere, like at the Wakefield lot and come across the busy North Ave. So that wasn't great. I think it decreased our foot traffic. So we'll try to not have that happen next time, but maybe we'll just be at a different lot, or think about how to not have that happen. But we had 16 or 17 vehicles showing off, some fun new features. Folks seemed to enjoy it. There was popcorn machine popping popcorn. And WCAT came by and did a video again. So that's floating around on the internet if you want to see it. But generally, I think it was pretty good. Some people had some good questions. It was nice to see a bigger variety of vehicles. Any other recaps from folks who were there? Okay, so that was that one. We have 2 events coming up. Town Day is in a couple of weeks. That's September 27th, 1 to 4. I'm doing that. Rebecca, I think you were still looking to see your sports schedule.
I'm available.
Oh, fantastic. Great. Does anyone else want to participate in Town Day on the 27th? Okay. And does anyone have a tent, a pop-up tent that we could borrow for the event? Okay, we'll ask around. And then our second event coming up is the Gas and Light. Gas and Light is having an open house on October 9th, 4 to 7 p.m. And they invited us to have a table, so we can table at that as well. And I think Tommy, you had said that you could be there for that.
Yeah, I
So-
should still be good to go.
Great. So I think that's you and me, unless anyone else wants to participate. Stefan?
I would like to participate.
Fantastic.
Isn't that our next meeting?
Well, it is potentially going to be that same evening, but since the event ends at 7, we could roll right over here from there, maybe via a pizza or something. But Stefan and Tommy, we can talk about how we might want to make that happen. Yes, I mean, we can jump to that next item on the agenda just while we're on that topic. Our meeting would be on October 9th, Thursday, October 9th at 7:30, unless that is of major conflict. Are there major conflicts that folks have? Okay, well, then we'll keep it that date. We also, for that, that meeting, I had tentatively invited, there's a member of the community, and Robin, I'm glad you're hearing this, who is very interested in rat poisons and their environmental impact, and wanted to know, what we might be doing about it, and could they help us do something about it? And maybe we can do some educational something about it. And I know this was something we had talked about in past meetings, and hadn't really, other than sharing around I think maybe there's a petition to sign. We hadn't gotten too far on that topic. So I think the person who's interested in rat poison is going to come be a guest at that meeting and chat with us about sort of what they know and how they might engage with us about doing something there. Maybe we can set up a talk this fall or do some advocacy work in that area. Okay. I don't think we have any other events coming up. And then on the topic of resilience and pollinator gardens, we had shared last time the sort of website stuff that Maggie had come up with. I reached out to town to Jen McDonald, the communications person, and to Sherry Dalton about putting up a page, and they're on board with putting up a page. We have to make sure all the images are things that we can use. I might ask around if folks have pictures of things that we want to add there. So we'll put up a web page on our website for information about how folks can do pollinator garden or rain garden, and then put up or create lawn signs that households can put out on their lawn to say, hey, we have a rain garden, or hey, this is, this might look messy, but it's a pollinator garden. So Christina designed some lawn signs. Oh, Christina, I don't suppose you have them handy and would want to show them, because I'm not actually logged into the.
That thought just crossed my mind. I can pull them up now.
Okay.
Try, at least.
And can you, I don't know if you have sharing capability. I wonder if I can.
Hold on.
I think I can't do that because I'm not host, so I can't give you the co-hosting. Well, we might not be able to do that. Maybe you could just send it out in an email to everybody so they can see it.
Yeah, I'll send it out and see what people think.
Cool. And I mean, so we need the QR code to put onto the lawn sign so that it points people to the website, which doesn't exist yet. But I was wondering if there was anyone who was excited about the idea of these lawn signs existing, who would want to take the baton on this one and find a local printer who makes lawn signs and get maybe some quotes on what it would cost to print some lawn signs. Maybe sort of run with that a bit.
I can do
Sorry,
that.
I missed the point of the lawn signs.
So the lawn signs are to help people out in the world, we're trying to be in real life here, see that a garden is trying to be pollinator friendly or is trying to be a rain garden, and then sort of draw attention to that these pollinator gardens exist in our town. Primarily, I think this is first on private property. If the town really wants to put one on some of their pollinator gardens, that's great too, but this is for residents. But then the sign, in addition to saying, oh, this is attracting pollinators and that's good stuff, would have a QR code to point to the website where we can explain to people how they might make their own pollinator gardens. Like, here are some plants to choose, or here's why you should do it, and that sort of information.
Gotcha.
So celebration and education. Lily, were you saying that you'd?
I could do that, yeah. There's a printer called PGI over by like the Slice. It's like that area. We use them for work all the time. They do a good job. I can ask them for quotes.
That would be great, yeah.
Mhm.
I have one or two other names I could pass your way.
Okay.
But yeah, I think quotes, because we have some budget. We've historically had a hard time spending our budget, especially because, as it turns out, we can't spend it on food, which is in the past sometimes what we've wanted to buy. So we have we have permission to use it for lawn signs. I checked. So we only have 2,000 for the year. So we probably shouldn't spend all of that on lawn signs in case we want to spend any money on anything else later on. But I don't know, how many lawn signs can we get for $1,000? I have absolutely no idea.
Do we have a sense for how many such gardens and how many people would take a sign? That would be a question I think we should answer.
Then that was the other direction I wanted to ask, is how many do we think we would want?
Yeah.
Assuming they are, let's say for easy math, they're $1 a piece. They're probably not, but if they were $1 a piece and we could get as many as we wanted, how many lawn signs would we actually want to get? Because how many people do we think are going to put these up in their
So I
on the
guess,
front
are you
lawn.
gonna do like a campaign to see who wants, like who has the pollinator gardens and who wants, like what's the outreach gonna be like?
What would you suggest? I mean, we can certainly post on Facebook, we can certainly email our email list. We can talk with our new friends at Friends of Lake Quannapowitt and the Garden Club and see if they know who has these. We'll be
Yeah.
at Town Day. If there was any world in which these are ready for Town Day, I would say we bring them to Town Day
Mhm.
and hand them out. But if not, we
I'm
could at least take
also-
names and emails.
I'm
So
also wondering if it's the right season, because nobody's gonna be planting these right now.
They are blooming right now, though.
Yeah, but you're not
So-
planting them now. It's already at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's true, but if folks are gonna, do seed starting over the winter or be
But-
making their plans.
You might want the view of what something looks like like before you plant it. So you bet it git's blooming now. So it'd be like, this is what it looks like.
Right, exactly. We would probably want to advise people to put the sign out for a little while, take it down before it snows and put it back out again in the early spring.
Mhm.
Uh,
So I have a few thoughts. First of all, I would say in 2018, my lawn signs cost about $10 each. I'm sure they are higher now, but they're not cheap. I would also say that having a lot of them is hard to manage. I had 35 signs, and that took 100% of my time to figure out where they were and what they were doing. So I would not go big. I would start reasonable. And 30 was a lot. The other thing I would say is maybe there's like a natural place to just start in terms of like our garden club or something. You know, folks that are really like attuned to this kind of a thing. And it is helpful to keep in mind whether these folks are on major roads or in the middle of nowhere where nobody's ever going to see their sign. I had to deliver some sad news that folks on like cul-de-sacs wouldn't be getting a sign because nobody would ever in a million years see it. So I don't know what our strategy is with that or whether it matters to us, but something to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, that's really good points. Yeah, I think we want them to be, and certainly, if you have a pollinator garden, but it's in your backyard. I think actually last meeting, someone said, well, we loan them a sign for a couple of pleasant weather days, they take a picture and post it, and then we get the sign
Yeah.
back to give to someone who has a visible front yard. Garden.
So maybe starting with outreach to like the garden club to see what they know already about who exists, or the Friends of Lake Q and other organizations. And right, if we're starting with a lower number, and this could be sort of like a pilot, and then in the spring again. I'm also thinking that maybe community, like if it goes well or people are interested, like a third group of community organizations, like schools, churches. I happened to pass like a great publicity pollinator sign in Beverly in front of a church on their main street. So some like groups where there's a bigger, they regularly attract more visitors. That could be helpful too.
Yes, I think the litter pickup, the Wakefield Warrior Crew. I feel like they were telling us at one of the events that they were at, they got a grant to do some pollinator gardens at some of the schools. So we could certainly be helping with publicizing, celebrating that too.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's signs around the lake from Friends of the Lake pollinator gardens.
I can try to help with like outreach in those groups if that's helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Rebecca. Saw someone else just come off mute, but I don't remember who it was. Okay, great. Sounds good. All right. Well, so it sounds like Rebecca will do some outreach to some of the garden oriented folks. To see if who they think might want such a sign. Christina will send around the signs for folks to see. And then Lily will explore getting some quotes. Yeah, maybe we want to start with 20.
Yeah, we can always print more. I like the idea of the pilot.
Is there any reason to reach out to the Friends of the Lake? I mean, do they have, I guess you'd want to put different things on yours than they have, but it feels like there's some, I don't know, whether they have extra or whether they even, yeah, know of folks who expressed an interest.
Right. My understanding is that they were very particularly doing the like the gardens at the lake.
Ah, okay. Got it.
They put up signs at the gardens that they planted on the shores of the lake, separate from sort of the rest of the community.
I see.
I can reach out to their leadership though, right? Like there's an overlap there of people who are interested in
Yes,
pollinator
I think they
gardening.
have shared interests. So there very well may be people in their circle that also have pollinator gardens at home in addition to planting them at the lake. So yeah, I think that's worth the outreach.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm gonna be connecting with Conservation Commission too. They have a post on their website about I think mostly about native plants. But you know, we'll probably want their input as well. So connecting with the various folks. But yeah, if there's schools that would want to get involved, it'd be great to do more pollinator gardens at schools. If folks are involved in any other groups, you know, if you're at a church that you think would want to do a pollinator garden, I think that'd be lovely. So we can see how we can plant those seeds around.
I mean, this definitely makes me wonder like what a pollinator garden is and whether I would even qualify, whether my house would qualify. So I'm interested in learning more.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is primarily that you're planting things specifically that you believe the pollinators like and gravitate towards and need to you know be fed.
Mhm.
Yeah, do we have any kind of criteria that we're basing
Good question.
our signage, you know, if somebody has like a couple pollinator plants or like 5, like I don't know, do we have criteria?
Or you know, I think you mentioned before, it's not that I'm not maintaining my yard, it's that I'm growing a pollinator garden. It's not quite.
Probably also this pile of dirty laundry is for the pollinators too, and so is that those dishes in the sink.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Melissa, I don't know if there's a criteria. I think this is probably more a self-identification, like if you are intentionally planting things because you think it is good for the pollinators and you want to say, check this out, it's for the pollinators, then that's probably for the pollinators. And if it looks like it is just your grassy lawn, then maybe we'll say, here's some other advice of things you could plant. But I don't suspect that folks who just have a weedy grassy lawn are gonna raise their hand for a sign.
We have a small cedar box. We have a couple in our backyard and we planted some pretty things in them, like 3 things. And we got a hummingbird for the first time this past weekend. I don't know if I would identify it as a pollinator, but we got a hummingbird.
Yeah,
Wakefield. I was pretty excited.
that's very cool.
Well, I think that's an interesting point, Steve, because it's like, what could a pollinator garden look like, and giving people some assurance that it doesn't have to be this big thing, massive thing, right?
Mhm.
It can be very manageable and still contribute.
Yeah, there was that Mystic Aquarium. It was it kind of changed my perspective on it actually. It wasn't very big. It was 1 box near the penguins. And the amount of bees on it was amazing. And it was mostly stuff that you would, things like sage actually was one of the big ones. So So, it doesn't need to be a lot. It just needs to be a couple decent flowers.
Right, it would probably be better for every yard to have a couple square feet of good, happy pollinator plants
Right.
across the whole town than for a few yards to have really elaborate, beautiful pollinator bounty, right? Cool. Anything else on the general resilience, rain gardens, set of topic areas? Interesting to hear from Dennis that that permeable pavement thing is mega expensive. That's too bad, because that is, from a rainwater flooding perspective, that's a potentially interesting idea.
Yeah, I've seen that around Cambridge on the sidewalks and around the trees, and it's definitely nice, but I can see where it'd be probably break down easier and be difficult if you're gonna be plowing.
Shall we do any updates from liaisons? Let's see, Stephen, I think you're up first.
The solar on the Galvin is now working.
It is?
Yeah,
Hooray!
that's good. And I think we're gonna get a fuller update. We're gonna get an update on that. We're gonna get an update on sort of what's going on with the schools, from our facilities director, Tim O'Brien, at our next meeting. And I feel like I want to talk to him about food rescue and compost. It's more of a Dustin O'Brien thing, but I think in terms of like what we could do from a facilities perspective, to sort of make things a little simpler. See if we can execute a little bit better and partner. I know it's really volunteers is what it takes. But at the same time, just make sure that it's the easiest sort of path to navigate that we can make it. I don't think we have a whole lot else from a ESC perspective. No, unless there are any questions.
Is it already time to start thinking about pumpkins? I imagine we'll want to do the pumpkin smashing again this year, pumpkin collection at the schools.
Yeah.
That's been pretty successful in the past.
When does Black Earth usually, I assume they reach out.
I think we reach out. Robin has been the.
Yeah, we organize it and we coordinate with Black Earth, and it's usually beginning of November.
So I guess we have a little time.
Okay.
Getting ahead of myself. Robin.
Hi, I didn't know if I was allowed to talk.
I think my chair's prerogative is to call on anyone who I would like to hear from. So Robin, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
So no, we have to reach out to Black Earth and kind of sooner rather than later, because they are each year getting more and more booked. But the first question is, who's paying for Black Earth to come up? The last few years, the DPW has funded it. So the question is, will they, or, you mentioned available budget from us, so maybe we offer to do it, but that's a conversation that needs to be had with Anne, kind of as the first step. As for when
I will take that action item of asking Anne.
And then the last 2 years, we've done the first Wednesday after Halloween. I don't remember how it came to be that, but Black Earth loved us coming Wednesday. That worked within like their logistics. And sometimes that's been a half day because of parent teacher conferences. So maybe that's how it got kind of established. So it's this negotiation with Black Earth and people who know the school calendar, what works for them. The map I've made in the past seemed to work. So I encourage you maybe just to start there. Started at 12:30 pickup and we were done in just under 2 hours.
Great.
So you have to get the commitments of the principals allow you to go, although how successful it is, I hope they're eager to do it. But so first step is budget, then schedule at Black Earth, and then notification with the schools.
Has it always just been the elementary schools? That's all I've-
Last year we added the pre-K,
Okay,
but yes, so pre-K and elementaries, and but public advertising to anyone to drop off at a school, you don't have to student there because it's outside.
yeah,
And that is not a half day this year.
no, it's not.
Oh, okay. Is there one in early November?
We kind of moved away from half-day Wednesdays.
Oh, okay.
Halloween itself is an early release day. Which is interesting,
Cause it's a Friday.
because it's a Friday, yeah, so. There's not one.
Hmm.
But I don't.
There's pros
think-
and cons probably for us to have done it on the half day, so.
Yeah, I think it's fine to do it on a regular length day. And does the Wednesday, like that first week after Halloween seems,
Some people complained it was too soon, and then others, like given how nasty their pumpkin was, it was too late.
yeah,
So
yeah, there's
I
probably
think,
no perfect answer there.
yeah, I mean, ideal world is that we could do a second one a few weeks later after ones that hadn't been carved or softer, but Black
Well,
Earth allows
also-
its Black Earth lets customers continue to put large gourds on their boxes last year, one a week. So I scooped up some people's and, composted over time in my own backyard. So, if you see on Facebook, people are giving away their pumpkins in addition to our pickup. All the farms love it because Stone Zoo takes them if they have absolutely zero glitter,
Mhm.
because some of the mammals love it. So there are second lives aside from us.
All right, awesome. Well, I'll check with Anne about that and then can reach out to Black Earth. Thank you for the historic, the institutional knowledge on that stuff, Robin. Ellie, I know you are not official youth council liaison at the moment, but any updates from youth council?
I mean, I don't think I've seen you guys since I like finished up for real the school supplies drive because I was away a lot over the summer. And that went really well. I gave the access to Mass Teachers Resources and they seemed really happy with it. They told me that they also like the woman at the front desk there told me they also personally see a lot of Wakefield teachers and staff there. So that's like really good to know that that's like a resource that's accessible to the Wakefield community and is used by us. So even the supplies that we didn't directly send to the schools went to a place accessible for the town. So that's really nice to know.
Awesome. Really well done, Ellie. Thank you so much for spearheading that and executing on it. This is great.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah,
I mean, we can do it again this coming year.
for sure. And then I can maybe get now I'm involved in National Honor Society too, so I might be able to get more students involved in it too. More like volunteers helping hands.
Wonderful. And are you looking to do anything to promote carpooling again this fall?
We were thinking about it. I gotta check in with youth council. We're still getting youth council up and off the ground, like because we're all like, high school students are younger, there's a lot of turnover. So every year we have to go through the process of like um leadership positions and liaisons all over again. So we're still in the thick of that right now. But maybe in our next meeting I can float that idea to whoever ends up being our communications manager. So yeah.
Well, thank you for all your work and for joining us again this evening.
Ah, no problem. Always a fun time.
We don't have DPW here, we don't have town council. So Jen, gas and light, any updates?
Yeah, I think the big thing we've been working on and will continue to work on is a winter discounted electric rate for heat pump owners. So that we're aiming to get that in place for this winter, which means we've got some work to do between now and this winter. So that's what we're going to be talking about at our next couple meetings. So I can keep you posted as it develops.
Can you describe a little bit more of that, Jen? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the proposal's been changing over time, but the current proposal is 2 tiers. One for folks who are willing to cut, essentially get rid of their fossil fuel use altogether. And another tier for people who are maybe on the path towards getting rid of it, but aren't there yet, and aren't ready yet for any number of reasons. And so the discount would be greater for folks without any fossil fuel at all, than folks who retain some kind of fossil fuel backup or need to operate fossil fuel for water heating or cooking or some other purpose.
Mhm.
So it's just for
Um,
new installs?
I'm sorry, what do you mean by new installs?
Well, you were just saying getting rid of gas. So is this for the electric rate or is it for the discount when you're installing a new heat pump?
It's your electric rate, so your per kilowatt hour rate that you're charged for electric use over the winter.
Okay, so if somebody, you mean somebody has to like take out their gas boiler to get the one specific rate?
So for gas in particular, you would need to disconnect from the gas system. That's the current proposal to get the higher tier, yes. And that would assure the gas department that you are not using gas.
Okay.
Or do not plan to use gas. There'll be another, we are looking at another rate for folks who, aren't there yet. As an example, I still use gas. I have electric cooking and I have electric heating, but I do not have electric water heating. So I'm
Mhm.
not there yet and wouldn't be able to disconnect from the gas system altogether.
What was the other rate?
It's a lower discount if you retain fossil fuel
Okay. Good.
connection. Yes.
And then is that for all of your electric use?
Yes, it is. So it would apply
So
to
like you're
any,
charging your EV
yes,
with discounted rate because Gas and Light knows that you are only heating with electric.
yep. Yeah, so it's done to all electric use, correct? Within that winter season.
Cool incentive. Makes a heat pump pretty compelling.
Yes, I mean it adds to I would say it adds to the incentives. It's probably not the thing that would actually get people moving. The upfront incentive, I think, is a bigger push for people to actually like take action, but it helps make the economic case. And it's actually, the driver is because when you switch from gas right now to electric, there are some customers that might see an increase in their cost, in their utility cost when they make that switch. So this is to essentially remove that disincentive or adjust for that disincentive that a gas user might have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it makes so folks that are on electric, resistance heat, or oil, the economics are already there. But again, for somebody that's on gas currently, that's where we're trying to kind of level the playing field so that everyone would see at least on par or a discount from where they currently are.
Are you guys gonna change the discount for installs as far as taking the gas out or like Mass Save is done or?
I do not, we will be revisiting our energy efficiency incentives in around November. I haven't heard any plan to make significant changes, but I can keep you posted if anything does change on that front. I mean, we are trying to kind of look at this relatively holistically so that all these incentives and rates work together as a package. So that's why the timing is aligning with winter season this year.
That makes sense. It'd be sort of silly to roll that out in April.
And do you know like when people have to sign up for the heat pump rates?
I think people can, so what we would be doing is anyone who already has a heat pump can be retroactively, like signed up effectively. So there wouldn't be like retroactive credit, but they could be signed up immediately. And then we'd sign up people as they convert essentially, or as they adopt heat pumps on a going forward basis. So if you adopted a heat pump in February, you can sign up at that time for the rate, like, and receive half a winter or, you know, a few months of the winter of that discount.
So you can sign up now.
I mean, the rate is not approved right now. We're still in conversations. So once we actually settle on a design and approve it, then you would be able to sign up.
Got it.
And it
No, we
only
can
if-
just know the timing so we can do some outreach as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Right,
That's what I'm
we
keeping
won't
you
do
posted.
outreach about it yet until it is actually approved and up on your website.
Well, yes, because the design is not finalized. So when we do outreach, we want to make sure we're able to tell people what the design is.
Yep. Good.
Jen, just out of curiosity, what is the proposed rate? Like, do you know?
Yeah, the proposed rate is a 3 cent per kilowatt hour discount for someone who's completely off fossil fuel, and a 1.5 cent discount for folks who retain fossil fuel. The one, however, where you retain fossil fuel, you would be changed to a higher rate on the gas side. So there's a shift. So for folks who aren't heating customers, you actually, if you're just using gas for appliances, you actually are on a rate that is different than folks who are using it for heating. And that rate is a little bit higher.
Okay, perfect.
So those folks would need to make the economic choice, like, are they enough off gas that that increased rate would not be a penalty for them?
Right, I imagine there are some households that are heating some of each, like have mini splits for some part of the house, but the gas furnace on others, so the, like, what you're retaining gas for will impact that. Right, if it's
Yes,
just for your hot
exactly.
water, then maybe it's not very much. But like
So
here, those are-
Yeah, so each customer will be in a little bit different situation and will need to evaluate their own kind of situation. But as people advance along that, you know, electrification path, maybe it's not appropriate for them at this moment in time, but maybe in another year or two down the road, if they take another end use off of fossil fuels, then maybe that's the best time to go ahead and jump on that rate. So, you know, it's something that can evolve over time as customers evolve through this process.
It's nice that you guys are thinking of multi-tiered approaches. It's good.
That just came up last week, so that
Hot off the press.
we did
Nice.
provide feedback on it, that it would be good to offer something for folks who retained fossil fuel, and yeah, the department came back with that second tier. So yeah, it's still evolving, and but I think we're getting there.
Cool. Yeah.
anything else from Gas and Light?
Nope, nothing from me. Nothing else from me.
All right, and we already talked about next meeting and the rat poison person who wants to come and chat. Any matters unanticipated? Anything else? All right, well then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Who is that?
Second,
Oh, Melissa, thank you,
second for me.
thank you. Christina,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Lily,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Stefan,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Tommy,
Yes.
Tiana, yes, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. And see you next month.